All right, March homework part 2. Now it's time to get to our underwriting template, which if you remember can be found under our folder and, oops, back up here. Sorry guys. Under our main folder and then underwriting templates and then this number 3 right here, underwriting template. If you've missed it, there's a video that I posted in here earlier tonight about the changes we made here. So you haven't seen this before in our previous class, but it's a little bit better of a template for you to use. So first thing we're going to do, and I intentionally left these filled in so you could see what I have to do sometimes if I forget to clear out my template. So just go find everything where we had stuff. If you try to delete something you're not supposed to, it'll yell at you. And remember, this template is it is locked just to prevent inadvertent changes, but you can easily go up to review and unlock it. It's not password protected. So I'm going to delete everything here. Okay, I'm going to also go delete everything over here in my orange cells. Oops. Delete, and we're going to go to pro forma and do the same thing. Delete all of our yellow cells. Oh, if I do that, I can't tell what I need to delete. Delete that, delete that, delete that, delete that. This, that, this, that, and that should do it. Okay. All right, so we're going to start with a blank template here, okay? So now the first thing we need to do, and I realized just now that I'm probably going to go ahead and record everything here for the next couple of weeks, even though March was only acquisition. So we're going to go through this part in this video, and then I'll do these 3 for our next homework solutions. Okay, so we're going to go back to the file we just completed. It has our very nice summary over here. And let's assume we've already studied this and we understand what's going on month to month. So now we're ready to go put the T12 version of this into our template. Side note, I also calculate a T3, which if you look at the equation is simply the last 3 months multiplied by 4 to annualize it. You should tend to notice that these numbers are trending towards the better on the T3, and that's usually because when a savvy owner or a savvy broker helping an owner starts getting ready to sell a property, they're going to start pushing rents, lowering expenses, really starting to try to make the thing shine. So it's not uncommon to see that. You might consider buying on T3 annualized income if the market's hot and you need to be competitive and give that little extra edge to win the property. But we're going to use T12 because that's a good practice, right? And by the way, I never, ever, ever, ever use T3 expenses. And the reason for that is expenses are seasonal. And if you do that and let's say you annualize, 3 months of expenses from, I'm going to say February, March, and April in Tennessee, you might wind up with a pretty low set of utility bills you just assumed are like that for the whole year when you didn't capture the winter or the summer. So case in point, right? Anyway, so let's go through and put this into our template. We know we have gross scheduled rents at 100% at 182,537. So let's go drop that in the seller's number here. We know we're going to have physical vacancy at 78. By the way, this is important. We show it as negative over here. It does need to be positive in this template, okay? And you can check that. I mean, if you see it negative and all of a sudden your total income is getting bigger with vacancy, that's a problem. So let's make that positive. Concessions and non-payment looks like 112. Ooh, that's a lot. I think I remember this property. This was a rougher property. It needed a lot of work. You know what? Actually, now that I say that, I don't remember what the total number of units on this property was because I underwrote this like 6 months ago. And we're going to go check though. Go to the bottom of the rent roll. We should have, 228. Okay, this is the big one. So let's go back to our thing here. By the way, this is called the Hermitage. The Hermitage. There we go. And we have, let's put a date in here so we know when we did this. Number of units we said was 228. Purchase price, what was this? I think it was 10 million. That doesn't sound right. Yeah, we'll call it 12 million. Don't remember exactly, but we're going to go with that to start with. And you can put your asking price here. Let's say the guy was asking 12 million, so we're going to start there. Okay, just for the purpose of the exercise. You can, for benefits of tracking, once you start dialing this thing in, we'll put in our first offer price, and then we'll put our do not exceed or strike price in there. Just good record. Okay, and actually, we can actually go take gross potential rent from up here, even though we didn't track it, because we know that that's what the loss to lease comes from. So we're going to add that here. This will populate once we do our yellow cells. I don't know what the square feet was, but let's just say it's going to be 226 D6 times, we can get it from our rent roll. What is our average square foot? Square foot occupied, market rent, square footage. Here we go, totals. 208,952. So it's 208,952. Okay, now we've got our dollar per square foot. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is go back and finish what I was doing before. Utility reimbursement. Let's get out of our rent roll. Sorry for the visual whiplash. Okay, I'm going to close the rent roll because it's in my way. Now if we go back over here and we go to utility reimbursement. Okay, here we go. So utility reimbursement is 35,170. By the way, I'm always just right-clicking and pasting its values. I want to make sure I don't mess up formatting or something. Good other income. I'm going to add these two together because there's not a place for good and bad in the template. 179, 176. 179, 176. Okay, and now we're going to go grab our expenses. And you're going to notice in this new template, there's actually one extra row that didn't used to be there. So there's asset management. I add that because my firm does implement asset management fees, but you typically won't see them in a seller's T12. So, and you'll notice that they're not really shown here. So we're just going to come down to property management and grab that, and then we'll put marketing down below here in a second. So let's just grab all those, right click, paste, and we're going to go from here all the way down, paste, and we'll put 0 in for asset management. Okay, so just to spot check ourselves, 822, 713, 822, 713, good. So we have our income and expenses. That's why we go through and do the tagging method, because it's so easy to put it into our deal here. Okay, so now what we've got to do is actually complete the acquisition underwriting. So I'm going to close this file. We don't need it right now. If we go and complete the acquisition underwriting, that's just this tab. So that's saying, okay, let's look at this property and figure out what is it doing today? What kind of loans can I put on it? What work do I need to do to the property? And what are the returns going to be like in place day one? How does it look? Am I making money? Am I losing money? Figure it out. So first thing I like to do is I like to wrap my debt around it first. So let's just cruise down this side of the sheet and then we'll start playing around. So we've got our seller's numbers in here first. So I remember from this one that the seller did not have a loan on it that is going to be assumable. So we're just going to go for a new loan. See, it pulls over our purchase price from over here, 20% down. So that in Jackson, Tennessee, where this property is, probably not going to get full 80% leverage. I'm going to assume we get, I'm going to assume we get 25% leverage. You see what happened there? If I try to change something I'm not supposed to, it's not going to let me. But you can unprotect the sheet if you want to by going to review and unprotect. It's not password. So on a $12 million purchase, it's going to make me have a down payment of $3 million, mortgage balance of $9 million, interest rate. Let's assume a Fannie Freddie loan. Today, those rates are a little bit high because of the COVID thing. Basically, even though the Fed dropped the rate as low as they could go, that really increased demand on Fannie and Freddie and other lenders, so their rates went up, supply and demand, right? So we're just going to call this 4.6, I think, off the cuff. By the way, you can talk to a mortgage broker or a bank or whatever avenue you think you want to figure out what the rate should be. I know I can probably get a 30-year amortization on this, and let's just assume that I'm going to get a 2-year interest-only period, right? So we'll put 2 in there. By the way, if you try to put a partial year, it's going to yell at you. It only allows integers just because we have our calculator on the pro forma is discrete by year. So we'll put 2 years in there. So that calculates our annual debt service here for the first year. Now, closing costs, we're going to assume 3%. It's pretty standard. This is a big property, though, so $360,000 to close a property is pretty big. I typically try to cap these at 150,000-ish. So let's just see, 1.5%. It's not bad. We'll go 1.4. Okay, 1.3. 1.25. Okay, there we go. Boom. 150,000. Loan points, typically 1% of the loan. Acquisition fee, up to you, depending how you're running your business. We're going to just say 2%. Pretty standard. CapEx and deferred maintenance. Now, this puppy, let's say we went to the site, and I did. Let's say we went to the site, and it had several roofs that were needing help. It had some underground polybutylene plumbing that was going to have to be replaced, and I was going to have to spend, let's say, average of $2,000 per unit. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is go in here and say equals 2,000 times, and I have this memorized because I've done this so many times, but D6 is going to be the number of, D6 is the number of units. So you see it highlighted D6 for me. So that's my 2,000 per unit. Plus, let's say I was going to need, I think it was around 150,000 in roofs. And let's say I also need about another 100,000 in plumbing repair. Maybe there's more, maybe there's less, whatever. But as you're going through due diligence, you would firm this up and you would get bids for everything and really understand what your amount of money outlay needed to be to fix this property and get it performing. So we're going to say we need another $706,000 in CapEx, which isn't a whole lot of money on a $12 million property, but that's okay. Funding of accounts. It's important, in my opinion, to always fill this in and have some money you plan to just like start the accounts with on day one. So what you don't want to do is bring just enough money to close the deal, and then your bank account has $0 in it on day one, and then on day two you have a boiler go out or something like that, and you're like, well, sorry guys, I can't fix it in the dead of winter until I get rents in for this month. That's not a good way to start. So, and by the way, I hear you. I mean, if you're loading up a pretty big CapEx fund, then perhaps you've accounted for the money you're going to keep back in your CapEx budget. You're going to start with all that money in the bank, and you just bleed out of that until you cash flow enough. So potato. But I'm going to say that I was aggressive on CapEx, and I put only what was needed there. So I'm going to fund the accounts with 2 months of my expenses. So equals 2 times the seller's expenses are F32. Actually, I think I should be able to select this now. Yes, F32. Couldn't do that before, but I fixed it once I unlocked it and relocked it. 2 times F32 divided by 12. So 2 months times F32 divided by 12 months. Okay, that gives you that ratio. So that's an extra $160,000 I want to have in the bank. First year insurance premium. I don't know how good his is yet. Let's just see. Insurance at about 300 a door. Yeah, that's probably about right. So insurance at 300 a door. We're going to go ahead and take that number. And that'll be our insurance. The reason this is in there is you typically have to have this paid in arrears. One full year of insurance paid up front uh, for the lender to make a loan. So coming back down here, if you were taking a second mortgage or a second loan, some lenders let you do that. I've never done one that way, but it is something that people will do a lot of times, like with bridge debt or things of that sort. We kind of just modeled a typical Fannie Freddie loan here. So we're going to assume this stays at zero, but I would fill it out just the same way as I did up here. What's my amount of mortgage, interest rate, amortization period, things like that. So leave that at zero. Now, what I need to do here, let's now go to the bottom here. There's these two cells we need to figure out. CapEx expenditures. Typically, the lender is going to require that you escrow a certain amount of money per unit per year. And the reason is they're lending on this $12 million asset for you, and they want to make sure that you take care of their asset. So they're going to say, okay, Mr. Buyer, I'm going to make you put $300 or $400 or $200 per unit per year, depending. That they'll go do it's called a PCNA report, property condition and appraisal, something like that. Anyway, I forget the acronym, but it's an engineering report where they send their people out and they figure out, okay, well, based on the age and based on the quality, we're going to say it's going to be this much you need to hold back. If it's a newer property, it'd be less. Older property would be more. So think about that. A good average is about $300 per unit in these times. So we're going to put that in here. And you'll notice that that's going to create $68,400 that comes out of your cash flow. That's going to go straight from the lender to escrow until you need it. And you'll get to use it, but you're going to have to usually do the repairs first, send them a picture that it's complete, and then they'll release it to you. So anyway, and then down here, equity percent. I'm going to start it with a standard that my company would keep 30%, investors would keep 70%. And we'll work from there. So in place, if I look down this column, based on everything we just put in here, we've got a net operating income about 880,000. Looks like about 814 left after CapEx reserves. My debt service, if once I take that out, that takes about 50% away. I'm left with 400,000 annually. Looks like that's about a 9% cash on cash return, debt coverage ratio of 2. I like that. Remember, the lender's going to want usually 1.25, 1.3 or greater. Cap rate of 7.4. That's probably about on par with Jackson. You can always look this up. If you just Google multifamily cap rate in X city, usually it'll bring up a little table on apartment data or something like that, and you can see for Class A, Class B, Class C. It's pretty handy to know that. And then if we kept these splits, we're going to keep this much of it. Investors are going to get that much of it. And that shows in place a 6.35% cash on cash return to investors. It's not bad, actually. I mean, if when we tweak this a little bit, I mean, even if it's in the first year, if you can get to above that pretty quickly by making a few changes. Okay, so we're in a pretty good shape starting off. This must be right around where I offered for this. I can't remember, but anyway. So now what we're going to do, we have the seller's numbers. We need to go scrutinize these and compare them to our rules of thumb and figure out what we think, based on the seller's numbers, what we think the property is really doing today. Sometimes you'll have the seller's numbers and they'll have a little fudge in them, or you just won't agree with some things. You'll say, no, there's no way you're only spending $2 a year on marketing. You're definitely spending more, or need to be. So we got to go look at that. Well, let's say that I've looked at his rent roll and I understand that. His vacancy is about 78,000. So let's see if I put 10% in. That's a lot more. 78,000. He's running at about 4% vacancy, 4.5. I'm just kind of guessing, checking here. Okay, I'm going to call it 5% because the lender's going to underwrite there anyway. Concessions and non-payment, usually 2%, but let's just see what he's doing here. 2% of gross schedule, that's a lot more. Okay, this property has a huge economic vacancy then. If we're talking 190,000 divided by, wow, that's 10% economic vacancy. Okay, this is very important. So I want to show you this. So 4.5, 4.25. Okay, that's pretty close. So if he's at 4.25% roughly economic or physical vacancy, and we're going to see that this is at 112,500, that is a big number because effectively, if I add these two together, that's 189,000 of 100 and 1.8 million. That's over 10% economic vacancy. So there's some opportunity here. So we'll keep going. I'm going to say that I've confirmed his utility reimbursement as well as I can at this point. So we're going to say that we trust those numbers. Now, taxes. In Tennessee, taxes are important. In Tennessee, you're on about a 5-year reappraisal or appraisal cycle. And in that 5th year, you're going to get hit with a big tax bill if you bought a property someone's had for a long time. So from what I remember, this guy's owned this property for a little while. And so we're going to see a lot higher of a tax bill once we get to this point. So it's important. I'm not going to go through that yet. Maybe we'll do that in a future lesson, but it's important for you to go to the tax assessor's website, understand how they calculate taxes, call them, make sure you can pretty well predict what the taxes are going to be when they reappraise. For now, I know that because it's not 2022 yet, this is going to be fine. Insurance, $298 per door. That's a pretty good number. Maybe even a little low, but we'll go with it for now. Repairs and maintenance, $645. It's pretty high. That's gonna. By the way, our color code here, as I put stuff in, our expense color code. If it's above the rule of thumb, it's yellow. If it's within the experience, it's green. If it's below, it's red. Never change a number just because it's above or below the rule of thumb. Always have a good business reason for doing so. Like, for example, I'm going to go hire this insurance company and they have a quote that says I'm going to get this for $200 a door instead of $300 a door or something like that, right? You can't just say, well, their insurance is above my rule of thumb, I'm going to lower it. That doesn't work. So we're going to use that for now. Let's say general and admin. So 275, that's a little bit high, actually. Let's say that it's a little high, but it's not bad. I mean, 275 a door, it's a little bit high. Property management, I think they were at like 4.5%, remember, right? Yeah, they were 5%. Wow. For a property this big, no. We're going to find someone probably for 4%, but we'll keep their number for now. They have no asset management fee. We're probably going to have an asset management fee. So I'd go ahead and debit it just to make it look what I'm going to do. Actually, we'll do that in year one. Marketing, 153 a door. Okay. Usually I only change stuff here, by the way. If it shows up red and it's like below what should be being spent, then I'll probably change it because I'm using this to figure out from an acquisition perspective, how much should I pay for the property based on how it's doing today. So I'm usually not going to lower one of their expenses and say, that's too high, because that's my bread, right? I'll do that on takeover or pro forma. But for acquisition, I'm going to say, well, maybe I want to make sure that I've got everything where it should be being spent. So if they had $50 on marketing, I'm probably like, no, there's no way. You got to increase that a little bit. Utilities kind of are what they are. Until we get into the bills, we're not going to know. Contracted services, that's pretty good. That's typically between 3 and 450, I think. Yeah, okay, 2 to 4. Payroll, what does he have in here? Wow, okay. I expect usually somewhere between 1,000 and 1,100 a door, as this mentions here. It's a little bit low. This rule of thumb was written 10 years ago, so costs have gone up a little bit, but okay, we'll leave that as it is. Okay, well, now we have done our pro forma underwriting. We didn't find anything we needed to increase. So if we go down and look at this, how's the property doing after we messed with it? We didn't really do a whole lot, so it should be pretty much the same. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Okay, exactly the same. But let's say that I decided his marketing budget was too low and I went up to 50,000, you know, and I decided his property management, like you can't find someone for 5%. Maybe it's got to be 7%, right? If I did that, then I'd be able to go down here and say and compare. So, well, hey, Mr. Broker, I know why you're telling me that it's selling at a 7.4% cap, but hey, like once I accounted for X, Y, and Z, it's actually at a 6.9 cap, and here's why. And like, so that this is like a conversation helper, right? You can start to, you compare what they give you, and you say, well, but you can start to pick up on things that maybe they adjusted and hoping you would catch it, right? Or it's just maybe they've got 70,000 units across the country, and they're able to get a better property management fee than the common Joe would. So anyway, it's important to note all that stuff. So let me put that back. Okay. One more thing of note, and then I'll quit yapping here for this one. Over here on the right is also a rule of thumb comparison for you. So all the rules of thumb that are in those comments are listed over here. You've got hours, which is pulling the price per unit from hours. Sellers, which is pulling price per unit from sellers. Just another way to compare it to help you. I mean, these rules of thumb are not hard and fast. They're really just to help you get your feet on the ground and help you figure out what should things be costing, right? So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we will meet virtually for our May meetup with the social distancing laws. And I'm going to go ahead and record our next couple of videos now that I'm in the groove of this for this property, so we can stay consistent and kind of work through it. So y'all have a good month. Talk to you soon.